Let's make sure. Yeah, we still have volume. We do. So a reason to stay flat is now doing activism. A reason to stay flat. Look him up. Oh, Timothy with an exclamation. He's doing this. How you doing? Want to have a nice conversation regarding our beliefs in reality, the nature of reality? Just a little chat. 2 minutes is kind of fun. How you doing, brother?
Good.
Have you ever heard about this craziness?
Yes.
You have?
I have.
Have you ever looked into it?
Yes.
You have?
There was a conference in Boulder.
Oh yeah, yeah, there was.
Not in Boulder, but in Colorado.
In Colorado, yeah. You saw a little bit of that?
I did.
It's a little. It's kind of crazy, but
what's up with you for?
What I do is I go out and I speak to people, and then I post it up on YouTube. And I'm trying to hopefully, as more and more people start to question things that we were told.
Right.
Like more and more people are kind of going out on the streets, and the reason why I think going out on the streets is important is YouTube is censoring literally channels that bring this stuff up. They're closing down channels. They're demonetizing channels that talk about this.
I don't think that's true. I think they might be closing channels based on copyright claims.
No. I had it happen to me. I've literally had it happen to me. I spoke about.
Why do you think that is?
Because
there's no reason YouTube would do that. At least.
Of course there is. Of course there is. Of course there is. The reason is because the lies can easily be exposed on video. If you have 2
that's
seconds,
your perspective. You think it's lies.
Well, I can show you something right now that'll prove that the Boston bombing was a fake. I can show you in 5 minutes. You can know.
Sorry, what's your agenda? Is it that the Earth is flat, or is it that the Boston bombing was fake?
It's basically almost that everything we know,
I see.
is a lie, man.
For example?
Well, I can tell you that from our monetary system to our taxes. Okay.
Can I videotape?
Do you know that? Of course. Do you know that our country didn't have federal taxes for the first 100 years? Did you know that? No federal taxes. Huh.
All right. And?
Oh, so my point being is that most people are ignorant of how things were. Cool. Okay, man. Yep. Have a good one. Most people, I think, are ignorant of the nature of the reality that we're living in, and are very accepting as to what they've been told by. Listen, you go to a school, right? Let's start with the ball Earth, right? When did you learn that you lived on a ball spinning, a spinning ball that has water that magically sticks to it?
When I was 4, probably.
Yeah. Now let me ask you: at that age, did you understand general relativity and gravity, or do you think you were more likely accepting what the teacher told you as an authority?
I don't think you need to understand general relativity to understand why the Earth is flat, or sorry, why the Earth is round, and why we live on a ball. General relativity does not come in there yet.
Well, you need to believe gravity, right?
No.
No? So how does all that water stick to a spinning ball at 1,000 miles an hour?
At that level, I guess you need to believe in gravity. But
right.
Gravity,
so at age 4,
overwhelming evidence for gravity.
Yeah. So my point is that at age 4, do you think you had a good grasp on what gravity was? You might have. Maybe you're a smart guy. For me, I had no clue. I just had a teacher who told me, and I believed my teacher. Some of that stuff I know is crazy, man. And if you want any explanations, I can tell you. I know I sound like a lunatic. I know I do. I do.
How about we talk for 5-10 minutes, and then I'll be on my way.
Okay. So we're taught. So we're told that. Now, like I have like a good little my little experiment over there is.
Let's stick to one piece. Are we talking about the Earth is flat, or are we talking about other things?
It's up to you. You want to talk about flat? We can talk about the Earth being flat. Okay. That's why I'm here.
Why do you
You're
think
open-minded.
The Earth is flat? Do you have evidence for the Earth?
Yeah. I'll show you some evidence right here. Okay. Imagine, folks. Let's play brain teaser with me. You see this bottle of water? All right. Imagine this bottle is 2 miles long end to end. Okay. And it's perfectly level, perfectly flat. Okay. All right, and we're gonna fill that, and imagine, let's say that it's like 16 inches here, 18 inches in diameter, right? Okay, and we're filling it halfway up. All right, it's 2 miles long. Now, according to spherical geometry, which according to ball earthers, the circumference of the Earth is 24,000 miles or so in circumference. To define that curve, 8 inches per mile squared can define that curve over distances as long as I guess you remain positive. Anyhow, 8 inches per mile squared. When you apply that to this 2 mile long pipe, you would have
8
2
inches
per mile squared. So you square the amount of miles and then you multiply times 8. So you're taking.
What is that?
That's giving you the curvature of the Earth of Earth the size 24,000.
There's nothing in there. Those are both like distances. There's nothing in there that gives you an angle.
It's not an angle. I'm giving you a curve. It's so I guess that's.
I don't get it.
Well, that's exactly this
8 inches per mile
squared. Yeah, that's going to give you a curve. I mean, this is
like 8 inches of dip every mile squared, and even then.
Yes, 8 inches per mile squared. So over a distance of this 2 miles, right? Check it out. Over the distance of 2 miles.
Mile squared is area, not distance.
Just wait. No, it's the distance. It's the length. So 2 times 2 is 4 times 8 would be 32 inches. You would have 32 inches of expected Earth curvature over a distance of 2 miles.
The number there is wrong.
But just go with me because you can look this up afterwards.
Why would I go with you if the numbers are wrong?
Look up curvature formula for Earth and look up, and you'll see that every ball earther will agree with me. 8 inches per mile squared will define the curvature of the Earth. So my point is that this pipe, imagine this being 2 miles long, right? And let's say it's 18 inches high. We fill it halfway up with water, so that'd be 9 inches across. You would think that we know that water always seeks and finds its level. However, if you believe that the Earth is a ball, you don't believe that. What you believe is that resting water would be 8 to 16 inches higher in the center, and it would taper off over the edges. There would literally be a bulge that would curve to the Earth's curvature. That's what you have to believe if you believe you live on a ball. Now that is absolutely absurd.
Wait, why is that absurd?
Well, think about it, because if this wasn't perfectly level, what would happen to all the water?
Why would you assume
It would all rush down to one side, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Wait, how do you
Right.
think
So resting water, we know resting water always seeks and finds its level. They don't say it finds its curve. It always seeks and finds its level, guys.
At a limit. At a limit.
Well, listen, I'm just going over. All I wanted to do is
operating
mention.
at the limit where the curvature is so large,
Right.
or the curvature is so small.
Right.
At the things we can see that everything.
At 2 miles, at 2 miles, we're talking. I'm not sure whether it's 8. By the way,
the number is off because even your units are off.
But listen, there's like a bazillion people.
Mile squared is not a unit for distance; it's a unit for area. You said 8 inches per
mile squared. So 8 inches, 8 inches of dip for every mile, and then you square the mile.
Why would I square the mile?
I have no idea. I'm not the guy who made the formula up. I'm going with it.
That metric is wrong.
Excuse me?
Let's start with the number.
It could very well could be, but listen, I can't argue math right now. All I'm telling, listen, I'll go to another proof if you guys want.
I can't argue facts if your numbers are wrong either.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll leave water out of it. There's another one where I thought was interesting. Is Neil deGrasse Tyson? He tweeted out. He since has deleted the tweet, but he tweeted out this particular photo. This is Everest, from the top of Everest, and he goes looking for your curve or some smart ass like that for the people on Ball Earth. Well, the problem is that, as you can see, this was also taken on the top of Everest. So which one is it? Well, this one happened to be taken with a fisheye lens, guys, okay? And the fisheye lens is what's giving all the fucking curvature, all right? But the brain-dead freaking zombie sheep that everywhere listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson. Well, it's funny. Now that Neil deGrasse Tyson has started to have to defend himself, now he talks about Felix Baumgartner, who did the jump out of the balloon. I don't know if you know that guy, the Red Bull jump. And in the background, you can see the curvature of the Earth. Well, guess what? That was a fisheye lens too. Because Neil deGrasse Tyson, you can watch a video on it. He goes, if Felix Baumgartner was like in a ratio of a basketball to the Earth, he goes, he would be less than 10 centimeters above that basketball. He goes, it would look flat, folks. That's what he says, right? But meanwhile, how many people have said, oh, I see the curve out of an airplane window? How many people do you know who have said that, right?
So wait, I have a question.
I'm sorry, I'm going crazy too. Yeah,
so
go ahead. I haven't done this in a while.
How is there days and nights?
All right, here you go. Here it is. If you look at this is supposedly like a model that they've come up with, and so you're talking about like and whether dude, honestly, I have no clue whether that is true or not. In the beginning, I had the hardest time because, dude, I didn't believe like too much supernatural stuff or anything. Like, I was an atheist, man. I didn't believe in God, period. Like, this place was Big Bang and boom, we're just freaking ants on a speck of dust flying through space, right? But, I've come to now think that there is absolutely a creator. Like one of the guys on YouTube, Ray Comfort, he talked, I don't know if you believe in God or not, but he's like, when you look at a building, he goes, did that building self-assemble itself? No, there was a creator who built that building and put it together. And I kind of have the same now opinion of the Earth. Now, again, the question is always looming in your mind, I guess. Well, who created the Creator, right? I mean, that's always the big question. I don't know. Maybe they were always here. Who knows?
That's not the question I had. But how did the Creator create that?
How did the Creator create what?
That. Where is the Creator now?
Oh, well, if you look in, well, guys, if you look in the Bible, this is crazy. If you look in the Bible,
let's not go to the Bible.
well, don't worry. No, this is just interesting, real quick. Werner von Braun, he was a head of NASA, head of NASA rocketry. He's the guy who did the Saturn V rocket, right? On his tombstone, he refers to Psalms 19-1. What does Psalm 19-1 say? The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. This is the head of NASA talking about. You guys know what the firmament is? The firmament is a dome in the Bible. So what the fuck is the head of NASA? Why would he leave? Like, you know, I'm just saying. I'm not saying this is proof in and of itself. What is he talking about? What is he? You know what I mean? Let's use some common sense, right? Supposedly the head of NASA rocketry is talking about the dome, and he's referring to the dome on his freaking grave, on his tomb. That's weird, no? Or, I mean, is it me?
I don't think that's weird.
You don't think that's weird?
No, he could be a religious man. He can be
right, of course. But for a religious guy who has sinned,
person, it doesn't mean that I think that the Earth is flat.
Oh, I'm not saying, dude. Most Christians don't think the Earth is flat. They don't listen. They don't even read their own Bible, which clearly states that the Earth is stationary and immovable. Stationary. Does that sound like a ball spinning through space, flying through space at 500,000 miles an hour?
Nothing stationary, man.
All right, hey man, that's cool. So guys, this is the one that helped me break through like some of my own mind conditioning. This, I couldn't even look at this photo. Like 3 years ago, like I would be like I don't want to look at the gore, I don't want to see it. It turns out that these guys are not. This is not real right here. These are actors, and so are these guys over here. And I put there to show you how realistic these people can be.
I understand, but I'm going to tell you right now, I actually know the physical therapist. She's a dear friend of mine who worked on him for 3 years.
Okay, cool. Because check this out. I'd love to get her name and interview her.
Nope.
That's interesting because I do know Dr. Lorraine Day, head of orthopedic surgery at San Francisco General Hospital, says it is impossible. You would never put a freaking person with 2 missing limbs blown off in a freaking wheelchair. Never in a million years would you sit them up. Why? Because they'd bleed to death, right? Think about it. You'd put them in a stretcher, and they had plenty of stretchers. They don't give a shit. But dude, listen, you know how many people I talk to who say they know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody? Every freaking time I go out, I get that. Nobody ever gives me a name though. Not a single person ever gives me a name.
Okay, but your word is just because
well, no, I'm not looking for you to believe a word I say. I'm looking for people to say, well, that is a little strange that not a drop of blood is below this guy's legs.
You got a spelling error on your.
Yes, I know. Thank you. I was a little too antsy. Thank you. But right here, look at this. Where's the blood? I picked my nose. I've literally picked my nose and had more blood come out of my nose. Right? There's not a drop of blood.
I get your point.
That's strange, no? All right, man. Do you see that? Is that strange to you? So this guy, you know the Boston bombing? No, I know. Listen, it's all fake. Come here. Come on. See this, guys? See this? These are actors. See, they're having fun and they're laughing, but that looks real, right? It looks real.
Yeah.
Same as this. It looks real, but it's not real. Yeah. Yeah, seriously. It's the same with these guys. You see, this is how they train medics in the military. They try to make it hyper real, so they call them crisis actors, right? So what they've learned is that they can scare the public with these images because nobody's going to look into the detail. But when you look at it with real objective eyes and you're not being emotional, you're going to see that there's no blood. Where is the blood? This guy's missing 2 legs. You understand what I'm saying or no? No? Okay. All right, guys. Good night. Holy shit, I'm fucking fucked. Guys, you want to go on down a strange, trippy world for 15 minutes? 5 minutes? It's fun. It's fun. Challenge your beliefs. No. Conform, obey.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wow, I'm really dropping the F-bombs today. I have to stop. I'm gonna do better. I will try to do better. I need to do better. I'm being avoided. Yes, it's true, my friend. You ever look into this crazy? Have you heard about flat Earth? No. No? Well, stay and chat, man, for 2 seconds. You have 2 seconds?
Yes.
All right. I'll play one game with you real quick over here. My little brain teaser. You know, do you know that water, resting bodies of water, have you ever heard the saying where they always seek and find their level? Its level? Okay. Well, we know, like when you fill up a bathtub, right? As you see this container here, right? That water is nice and level, right? Now, if that, according to what ball earthers believe, if you can imagine that tube, that container being 2 miles long from end to end, okay? What you believe, according to spherical geometry, there should be 8 inches per mile squared of curvature over a distance of 2 miles, which would give you approximately 16 to 32 inches of hump of water in the middle. Yeah. So being that you believe that you live on a spinning ball right now, if this was 2 miles long, imagine it, in the middle here, this bottle would be, like the water would be almost to the top on the middle, and then it would go down to the edges.
Yeah, sure.
You believe that?
Yes.
Have you ever seen anything, water act like that?
No. Of course not.
Of course not, right? Right. Because if the water was higher in the middle, it would just naturally level itself out, because that's what water does, right? So I'm just trying to point out, it's almost absurd to believe that we could live on a ball where water sticks to it. Do you know how fast it is they say we're spinning?
I forgot.
At the equator, 1,000 miles an hour, right?
Okay.
A bullet travels at 1,500 miles an hour. So we're traveling almost as fast as we're spinning almost as fast as a speeding bullet. We're also circling the sun, right, at 66,000 miles an hour. And the sun's traveling over 500,000 freaking miles an hour.
Okay.
You don't feel a thing, right?
Yes.
500,000 miles an hour is pretty good speed, bro. That's like fast, man. And remember, that's an elliptical orbit around the sun, the 66,000 miles an hour. So you are actually, there is a speeding, because a lot of people say, well, you don't feel constant motion. Well, you know, if you go around a turn, if you're going around a turn, you always feel the turn, right? You feel it. Like if you're in a car and you're in a constant turn, you're still being pushed to the edge. So you do feel motion when you're in a curve. And you know, we are constantly going around the sun, supposedly. I have tons more information, and like if you want, grab one of my cards. If you sound fairly open-minded, this stuff is absolutely absurd to hear. I brought some other stuff because I believe that like pretty much almost everything we are taught is lies. You know these latest these shootings that are taking place in New Zealand and everything?
Yes.
So this one was a really hard one for me to get over. I don't expect you to believe any of this stuff. I wouldn't want you to. I'd rather you look into it and make up your own mind. But these people here, these guys here, those guys are actors. And what they do is they help like medics and stuff learn how to operate under like realistic conditions, right? So they put on all this gore and stuff, they act like their legs are blown off, and then it helps the medics deal with it so that way when it happens in reality, they're prepared, right? So that's called moulage. These injuries are called moulage. And here's another one. Here's another one there. So these are fake. This one's fake, and this one's fake. Now this one supposedly isn't fake. This is supposedly Jeff Bowen from the Boston bombing, right? And the interesting thing is that if you look at it, there's a few things wrong with that photo that have been pointed out. A, if you look carefully, especially on your phone, you could look this one up, you can see it on Google in high definition. There is not one single drop of blood that's coming out of his two legs, which happened to be blown off just maybe within 7 minutes prior to this photo being taken. There's not a single drop of blood coming out of those legs. That's strange, my friend. So there's a woman named Dr. Lorraine Day. She's the head of orthopedic surgery at San Francisco General Hospital. She's retired. She says, this is impossible what you're seeing. She says, first of all, no paramedic in their right mind would ever sit up a double amputee in a wheelchair. It just won't happen. They would put you in a stretcher and lay you down. Otherwise, you're gonna bleed to death. So if you look into this stuff, you start noticing, you know, that, hey, these guys aren't bleeding either. You know what I mean? So you start seeing the parallels between fake and what is real. And so then you can say, well, does that mean this is real? Or is this real? Is this fake or is this fake? You can't tell. And so what they do is they're doing this, and it controls the population. They're going to get gun control out of it, you know. there's a number of other instances that also have taken place. This girl, Alex Israel, she looks awfully like Katie Foley, right? They're two different people in two different events, supposedly, but they act and sound exactly the same. It is frightening. There's a ton more. I did this experiment at home. This one, when you're at the beach, right, and you see a sunset, when we see a sunset, we see it at the bottom, right? The sun rays are literally going all the way up to your feet. Then, so here's it with a light on a flat surface, and here it is with a light. And if you curve the surface, such as the Earth would be curved, and that's what you would expect, because we know that light can't get around a curve. So I don't know if you grabbed one of my cards yet, but definitely, grab a card and take a look. Have any of you guys looked into flat Earth at all?
Not much.
No? Cool. But you've heard about it a little bit, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard about it a few times before I actually looked into it, and at first I was like, my literally exact quote was, "What kind of idiot would say that?" Like, I literally said, like, what kind? So there's a good saying that goes along with that, and it's there's a principle which will keep a man in everlasting ignorance, and that principle is condemnation before investigation. And I guess, unfortunately, that's how I lived most of my life up until age 46. I laughed at shit, and I thought Dave knew better than everybody else for some reason. I had I really thought maybe you could accuse me of that right now, but now I'm not asking anyone to believe a word I'm saying. I'm challenging you to challenge your own beliefs. I have a little testing over there. That bottle of water. If you believe you live on a ball Earth, right? That water sticks to spinning 1,000 miles an hour. And imagine that bottle was 2 miles long end to end. According to spherical geometry of Earth, the size of our Earth, they tell us is 24,000 miles in circumference. 8 inches per mile squared is the formula that will define that curve and that you can apply to. So if we could apply that formula to a distance of that bottle being 2 miles long, you'd end up with about 16 to 32 inches of bulge in the middle of water. So as a ball Earth believer, what you have to believe and accept right now is that if that bottle was 2 miles long, there would be a giant hump of water in the middle and it would taper down on each edge. That's what you currently believe. But unfortunately, that really does contradict everything we know about water. Water always seeks and finds its level. We know that. If you put water on an incline or a decline, it's going to run down it until it finds its next level point and rise to that point, and it will stay within its container. So that one I just think is a great way to see what you have to honestly believe. You have to believe that there would be a hump of water in a 2 mile long pipe. I just don't. I don't get that one. That one's hard for me to believe. I wouldn't expect anyone to believe any of the stuff that I'm telling you right this moment. Here's another example of how we know water acts, to see how it's seeking and finding its level. I'm going to actually do an experiment where they use it's a carpenter's, I think it's called a carpenter's level, where you use tubing. I'm going to fill up the tubing, run it 2 miles, and I'm going to have 3 points, one in the middle and one on each end, and we're going to measure and look for that hump in the middle of 16 to 32 inches, or 8 to 16 inches. We're going to AutoCAD it, so we'll have it. I'm going to be using surveyors, but I can tell you for a fact there are over a distance of 7 miles, right? A guy named D Marble on YouTube. By the way, YouTube is, I know I sound crazy, but they're censoring videos. I was my channel was shut down for 3 months for even talking about the last shooting in California, Thousand Oaks shooting. I got shut down for bringing it up. For even bringing it up, they're closing down channels. YouTube should really be considered at this point a town hall. They're censoring people badly, so you cannot find a lot of the videos that I would find a year and a half, 2 years ago. They're gone. Like, you just cannot find them, or they close down the person's channel and the people give up posting them, which is why I go out on the streets. So where was I? So there's a guy named D Marble, and he went to a lake. The lake was about 7 miles long. So applying that formula again, 7 times 7 would be 49. Let's just do 50 to keep it easy. 50 times 8 inches would be 400 inches of expected curvature. 400 inches of expected curvature is what there should be over a distance of 7 miles. 400 inches divided by 12 is how many feet, guys? Help me out. It's like 35, 40 feet, right? Something like that. Not quite 40, more like 35. So there should be 35 feet of Earth curvature over a distance of 7 miles. What he did is he took a laser beam, and he had the laser beam 6 feet off the ground. He put it, and he was on the opposite end of the shore, 7 miles away, and he has his camera there. And he put his camera right at the water's edge. You can actually see this video it still is up, and you can literally see the water like coming right up to the edge of the thing. Well, what do you see clear as day? The laser beam pointed right at you. Not like the line going over you or anything like that. The laser beam right at you, at your eye level. Should have been obstructed, right, by 35 feet. Well, the 35 feet is the total amount of curvature, so I think the bulge would be 17 and a half or whatever. But it should have been completely obscured. People have done that experiment. This is kind of the same thing. I don't know if you read this one. Guys, this is the Chicago skyline from over 60 miles across Lake Michigan. Over a distance of 60 miles, now we're up to 1,700 feet of expected Earth curve. It's gotta be there. You've seen the photos from space, right? Well, they're not really photos, they're images. So they're not even real photos, but we can go back there later. So 1,700 feet is the amount of expected curvature over a distance of 60 miles. Well, the very tallest building in Chicago is the Sears Tower, and that, including the antenna on it, is 1,700 feet. And that's including like a 200 or 150 foot antenna. You shouldn't be seeing any of that building. Why are you seeing it? That made the news, this photo. It made the news. Why did it make the news? Well, the news guy tells you what you're seeing is impossible. He goes, but what you're seeing is actually a mirage. So he tells you what you're seeing. So he's telling you. He's not, he's telling people what to think, and he tells you that what this is a mirage. So there's another guy named Rob Skiba who he rented a boat and he videotaped that mirage from like 45 miles away, one end, and he was able to see it, and he videotaped it the entire distance across and went until the city was right in front of his eyes. So was it really a mirage, And if it wasn't, then the problem is where is this freaking curvature that we should be seeing everywhere? Nobody's finding it. I know it's crazy, I know it is, but I can tell you there are in order for the Earth to be flat, NASA would have to be lying. It's a given, right? You couldn't have, because those photos from space, otherwise if they're real, then I'm flat out wrong. It's that easy. There are so many videos of NASA having glitches where you start seeing things that you shouldn't be seeing. In one, an astronaut on the ISS, he's playing with a screw. He's trying to fix a screw into the wall. Well, the screw comes out and drops right to the ground. You hear it drop. You literally hear it, but wait, there's no gravity in space, right? So why did the freaking...
Mr. Dude, glad you're back.
Hey man, how you doing? So why would that screw drop? There's another video, and by the way, YouTube is censoring a lot of these videos. You can't even find them anymore. But there's another video of an astronaut, of 3 astronauts, and they start to glitch out, but only the astronauts. The background stays fine. So it's like on Star Trek when the guys did so what they're doing is they're layering, literally they're layering in people. They actually show people come into frame and dissolve into nothing. They actually they I don't even know why they would mess around with that, in the first place.
So where do the rockets go?
It's interesting. Have you guys ever watched the launches? When you see a launch, right?
Not
you see it go up, well, not personally, but on TV or whatever video, right? You see it and you see it go up, always out over the ocean, right? And it goes in an arc, and you see it literally arc, and then then it's in space, supposedly. There's a couple interesting things about the shuttle, I think. The video that they show you when they do go up into space, the video that they show you, they always have the video cameras, NASA has always had the video cameras attached to the booster rockets. So right when you're going to get into the money shot where you're literally entering space, which is probably one of the best parts, they're ditching their cameras. So there's not one continuous video of the space shuttle going from Earth into orbit. Another thing that's kind of you have to really believe for this stuff is that, and think about this, guys, space, they tell us, is a vacuum. It's almost a perfect vacuum, right? So no man has ever replicated this, but the Earth has a pressure system, right? We have a pressure system. Well, no man has ever created a pressure system that can exist within a vacuum without a physical barrier between the two. So what is holding our atmosphere in the Earth when there's a vacuum surrounding it? A vacuum that would, immediately...
Probably the ozone.
Actually, what they're going to tell you is that it's gravity. Basically, everything goes back to gravity in terms of protecting your belief that you live on a ball.
Are you in the thought system of the Terradome? Or
I mean, who knows? I don't. I kind of am, because the Bible seems to be talking about I'm not sure what's good in the Bible and what's not. I thought I was born again Christian, and then 3 months ago I decided I can't be on board with that, because if I'm going to be honest, I'm believing in that stuff like I used to believe I lived on a ball, and I really want the evidence to. But there does seem to be a lot of evidence in the Bible that states much of what is taking place today, like what's happening with men deceiving men, you name it. There's a lot of parts that are left out in a book of Enoch too. I'm not a religious guy. I was an atheist for 46 years of my life. Now all of a sudden I'm referring to the Bible, which is strange. Yeah, there's a lot of trickery that NASA's been caught with. Just starting with the moon landings. I mean, those things were questioned, pretty much from the day they did them. What's even more interesting, I think, is that there's a guy named astronaut. You can look him up. If you look up Don Pettit, NASA astronaut, we go back to the moon. There's a famous video of him, and he goes, "I would go back to the moon in a nanosecond," he says. But he goes, "But I can't, because we destroyed that technology, and it's too painful of a process to build back again." Okay. So we went to the moon in 1970, whatever it was. 60 freaking 9, guys. 50 years ago. And now we're having trouble with technology to build something to get back there?
We're not having trouble, actually. It's more of a practical reason why we're not doing it. So the idea is if you ever watched Damien Chazelle's movie, what's it called? With Ryan Reynolds, but essentially it's about the moon landing. But essentially there's so much capital that went into that. A lot of people died. There's so much protest against it, and it was more like a symbolic thing against the Cold War too.
But we made it. But you do know we made it 6 or 7 times. 6 times we went to the moon, and not one person died when they went.
Yeah. Do you know
6 for 6, guys. Woo! That's pretty good.
Do you know how many people died on Earth during the testings?
I know.
A lot.
Okay, but the point is.
And it cost so much money.
And one blew up.
Hold on. But the point is.
We got them back.
But guys.
They did go boom.
But people died on the space shuttle. Everyone was fine with that. Listen, that's the nature of space travel anyway. There's no guarantees. If you want to sign up for that, and that's why you have the big balls to do it, right? But my point is that over a course of 50 years, they say the technology that was used on the lunar lander was equivalent less than that of an iPhone, 6 versions back, by the way.
That's true.
Okay, so that means that they were able to do it with that little amount of technology, and now you're gonna fucking tell me that it's gonna be harder to do that now? Give me a break, man. Think. You gotta think and use your brain.
It's easier.
It's more about funding.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's about funding. Okay, so it's not about practicality, now it's about money.
Well, I do think those go hand in hand. By the way, I love your whole getup here. You mind if I get a picture?
Yeah, you can do anything you want.
Yeah,
So I'm sorry to drop F-bombs, but guys, man, it's sometimes you almost have to slap somebody to freaking wake them up. We're what age did all of us? Oops, sorry.
Smile.
What age did we all learn that we lived on a spinning ball, guys? At what age were you when you learned that you lived on a ball that magical water sticks to and spins 1,000 miles an hour? What age would you say?
4.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years old. Now, at age 4 or 5, I know now you guys are really smart people here. I'm out of my league in terms of dealing with Princeton people. I know that. I'm well aware of it. But let's be real here. How many of you raise your hands at age 4 understood general relativity and gravity and could prove all that out? Or do you think that you were accepting an authority figure telling you what the fuck was going on in your life? Which is it?
It's a fair argument. I'll go for the latter.
Yeah, right. So we grow up and boom. We're being indoctrinated by a school that has, and by the way, in many of these schools, there's globes in almost every single classroom. Not only that, you're going to go in and watch TV, you're going to see it on the movies. This stuff is real. At a certain point, there's not a doubt in your mind. Every adult you know knows that you live on a ball. Every movie that you've seen shows you living on a ball. And every teacher that you've ever taken a class from, almost. I know there was a few who didn't believe this stuff even years ago, but it was very extreme small
Can I ask
minority.
you a question?
Yeah.
So I'm from Chicago, and I'm wondering, when I look out on the lake, I just see water. Why don't I see Indiana or Michigan on the other side? If it's flat, it should be level, and I should see it, right?
Absolutely. Well, you think.
I live in Lincoln Park.
I live in Lincoln Park.
Oh, nice.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
What street do you live on?
I'm on Lincoln and Armitage.
I'm on, what am I? I'm north. North Orchard.
Oh shit.
Yeah, right by Willow.
Oh nice.
So this is that's a great question, and I think this will make a lot of sense to you. But there's a couple ways to answer it. The short answer is there's water in our atmosphere. If you've ever driven on a foggy night, right? The distance we can see is limited by the amount of fog or the water in the atmosphere. The same really holds true for a day like today. You can't see for infinity because there is a percentage of water. In a certain point, that water is, and then we have a limited distance our eyes cannot see forever. So there is a vanishing point from which we cannot see any further. Period. We just will not see it. So it's probably a combination of those things. But yeah, that was one of the things that I would like. There's so many things that I still cannot explain, and I'm fine telling you that. But because there's a lot of things that you can't explain, and you're going to have to accept believing that you live on a ball. Where does space end? Right? Does it end? Who the hell knows? I had another one I thought last night, and I'll just bring this up to you.
Yeah.
And I think this is an interesting thought. I've never even mentioned this before. But I find it interesting that if you look up in the night sky or in the daytime, right? Here we have our sun, which is supposedly a star, right? And it's the only star in the entire 360-degree view that happens to be, the level of intensity and brightness. It's large, right? The next nearest star that we even comes close would be your brightest star in the sky, whichever one that is. Every other star, it's like we happen to be in this one isolated pocket of the universe where there just happens to be one special star, and all the rest of them are little pinpoints, and yet supposedly they tell us it's infinite amount of stars too. So you have to start wondering, what are the odds? What are the odds of there just being that one single star that happens to be with, that makes this one so large, and we call it our sun, when the rest of the nighttime sky will be filled with billions of other stars, and not one of them is even halfway closer. You see what I'm saying?
I guess the odds are roughly equivalent to the same odds of a solar system forming. This is
right, which is zero, right? I mean, on its own.
Are they?
Well, for me to believe that something comes from nothing. Let me ask you this: does anybody here believe that something can come from nothing?
This is a metaphysics question.
Wait, you know what? Let's take it down a notch, and I want to show you guys all something that. See, I think flat Earth is. I bring other stuff with me because, in my mind, flat Earth is like the most craziest of all the quote conspiracies out there.
Do you think the Holocaust didn't happen?
No, I don't think that it didn't happen. What I believe, and how many of you guys have investigated an alternative theory of what took place in the Holocaust? Have any of you guys?
I'm a 20th century history major, so yeah, we study a lot of it.
Right, but have you looked at alternative explanations of what took place?
Yes, and
Yeah.
Through the lens of trying to disprove it.
Cool. Oh, good. Cause I'll bring this one up to you. For me, one of the things that got me going. There's a guy named David Cole. He's a Jewish guy, and he did a video back in like 1989, 1988, and he was asking of Auschwitz, the people who run it, certain what is the reason for why this is and why that is. It's about an hour and a half long video. And I watched that and I was like, holy mackerel, something's not right here. I can tell when people are lying, like you get a feeling when people are lying. And these people didn't want to answer some of his questions or would skirt around it. They tell him to go ask this person, and they give him the runaround. And I thought it was really strange. One of the strange things in it was they showed one of the rooms, which is a gas chamber, which was labeled a gas chamber. And in it, he goes, so this was the gas chamber. The guy's like, yeah, this is a gas chamber. And in it, there's a wooden door. And in the wooden door, there's a big glass panel. There's a glass panel for the door that holds the people in. The original glass, that's how it was. And I'm thinking to myself, wow. So if I was getting gassed and I can't breathe, I might just think of poking a hole in that glass window and just trying to get a little bit of fresh air, right?
There's actually an interesting experiment you can try with that. Go to the top of Freedom Tower and try to punch a hole in those glass panes. You can see how easy it is to punch through.
Right, that's true, and I don't know the exact depth, but I do know that if I'm in there, the idea of having a glass window seems a little absurd. There was actually no anything on the bottom of the door, like rubber, like anything to keep gases in. There was literally there's a crack underneath. You have to watch this stuff, and so anyway, what really got me with the Holocaust though is the math involved. The math required the time it takes to burn a body today in a professional crematoria, they say is a little over 1 hour using today's highest technology, and it uses a lot of fuel, labor intensive, and it takes 1 hour to get to burn it up, and then you're still left with the bones that you have to crunch up and grind them down, right? So the math doesn't start to make any sense.
Well, they had no shortage of labor because they were using their victims as their labor.
I'm not talking about the labor so much as the problem really comes in the amount of what do they call them? There weren't furnaces, but whatever the heating mechanism, you know, the crematoria mechanism that they were using, flue. I forget what it's called.
Hey man, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. So anyway, a long story short, they had about 34 of these things running at max capacity. So 34 of them with an hour, and let's use the best time that you can actually, you know, burn up cremate a body in 1 hour, which they couldn't because they weren't even the same technology. But let's use that. At 34, you're talking 34 bodies an hour over a 24-hour period. You're talking something close to the line of 600, 700 bodies, right? Okay. Now the problem is that you have to perform maintenance on these things. You can't run them 24 hours a day because if you did, you're going to destroy the structure of the actual furnace because it can't take that type of abuse. You could look this stuff up. You have to look it up. So the math starts to break down. If they can do only 600, and let's say they're doing it 24 hours a day, right? Let's give them that. Let's bump it up to 1,000 a day, right? I'll give them even extra, another 500. Now you're at 1,000 bodies a day. You do the math. How many?
Are you making fun of the Holocaust?
Does it sound like I'm making fun?
Where do you suggest
Yes, you do.
like these?
No, I think what I'm doing is I'm asking questions that don't seem to make sense.
What if I told you my grandparents died then?
What am I going to do? I'm not going to deny it. It's very likely it did. I'm questioning the manner in which people died. The reason why they had Zyklon B. Zyklon B was a delousing agent. On Auschwitz land, it was built on a marshland, which happened to be a breeding ground with all the filth and the lack of. Okay, man. But anyway, long story short. You start poking you start looking into this stuff and scratching at it, and yeah, man, I hear you. I used to watch videos
Please reconsider your life, because what you're doing is disrespecting over 12 million fucking people that died. That are not.
Actually, did you know that they've changed it?
Can you please like fuck off?
Okay. So I guess that's the answer to it, huh? Sounds like someone searching for truth over there. Tells me to fuck off. That's cool.
So what you're essentially doing is you're like kind of being a skeptic about certain things. I'm a philosophy major, so like I'm studying skepticism.
Yeah.
There's like I don't know.
Well, wait. Well, is it truly being a skeptic, or is it just looking for truth? I mean, the fact is that when you say I'm skeptical, well, you're skeptical of my view, aren't you? Or the vast majority of people seem to be skeptics of my view. Mm-hmm. Does that mean the masses are always right?
Not always, but in most cases they are.
Really?
Yeah.
There's an old Chinese saying, and it says, if the path you're on, the majority of people are walking in the opposite direction, stay on your path and stay in the same direction. Ancient Chinese philosophers might disagree with you there.
Well, contemporary philosophy, especially like after like the scientific revolution, would probably disagree with that. And a lot of philosophy is outdated. So I think that
according to who?
According to philosophers who have like been skeptics and questioned the world, and this is like their conclusion.
Well, I think it's all. I think that's all subjective.
No, it's not.
Absolutely,
it is subjective, but the probability
let me ask you.
is like it's very.
All right, let me ask you. Let's be real. What is the difference between that photo there, this photo here, and this photo here?
This is kind of a straw man argument. Like,
well, how is that a straw man?
You're trying to changing the conversation from like the big philosophical thing to like a specific example.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I'm not familiar with this photo.
Okay. Well, if I was to look for either differences or similarities, right? I would say the similarities where the blood looks all fairly close to the same color. The lack of blood dripping, generally speaking.
Okay, fine. Okay, what's this supposed to show?
Well, this is what I'm showing is that this photo here they're called crisis actors, and what they do is they help train military personnel to actually deal with a live, real situation by mimicking what's taking place.
How does that?
This one here is also the same guys, crisis actors, and it's called moulage. Well, this center one is actually supposedly a real photo of what happened during the Boston bombing. And what I'm arguing here is that you really can't tell the difference between any of these three photos, especially with the fact that there is no blood. I mean, guys, I used to pick my nose when I was young, and occasionally I'd pick it too hard and I'd bleed. And I had more blood come out of my nose than what's coming out of this guy's 2 missing legs.
Okay.
Something's wrong there.
I'm so confused with like how this relates to. Okay, sure. Like there are like specific instances you can find where maybe like the government like acted dishonestly. That's why Jon Stewart like kind of did when he grew up during the Vietnam War. So like he was very skeptical of official reports.
Yeah.
So like sure, like there like you can find specific instances where like
of government deception. You think think the government or do you think that mainstream media then is I mean you're going to be that quick? You're really going to tell me that you're comfortable with this being a lie? That
I don't know.
Possibly.
I'm not,
but I mean you might be. I mean it sounds like you're considering it that it's possible.
I mean I don't. If I were to know more about like the blood flows and like
Good, man. That's awesome. I will tell you this. There's a woman. Her name, you can look her up. Her name is Dr. Lorraine Day, and she's the chief, or she was. She's retired now. She was the chief of orthopedic surgery at San Francisco General Hospital, and she literally says this photo is like the most ridiculous photo she's ever seen. She says it because the man, they sat him upright in a wheelchair. She says no EMT in their right mind would ever take a double amputee, guy missing both his legs, and sit him up in a wheelchair. You would bleed to death very, very quickly.
Wait, hang on. Like the conversation keeps changing. So like we were first talking about
Flat Earth.
Okay, or well, even just like within the last like 4 minutes.
Holocaust.
No. First we were like talking about like how you can know like trust the majority, and then like so I take it this example of like why would we not trust the majority?
Right. Oh, right.
No, like that's fair. Like you can't like trust, but there's a difference between like trusting like.
It's not a matter of trusting the majority. I think that the majority are often being misled. It's like this photo right here. You know, here. This is what I think of society these days. This is generally what society is. It's a bunch of sheep following one another blindly, not knowing why they're following. A lot of people end up in college. You know how many people go to college? They have no idea why they're going to college, but they go because their guidance counselor taught them. They were taught from a young age. Hey, you go to elementary school, then you go to middle school, then the next thing you know, you go to high school, and when you're done high school, you go to college.
And there's very good reason to support why you should go to college. So there's a difference like between believing majorities. This is.
Do you think that's still the case though? Really, with all the amount of information that's online, do you honestly believe that you cannot self-educate yourself in this day and age?
And I think that. But
so, what is a good reason for college then?
Well, multiple reasons. First off, you just like get a higher like learning of yourself. It clarifies your life goals.
How do you know that? Okay. I mean, how do you have the ability to say that because one goes to college, their life experience is greater than another who goes and goes off to work or goes off to study on their own? How do you know? There is no way to know.
This is a philosophy problem too. It's called the objective list theory. So like some people just think that there are certain goods in lives that are better for humans, or there are certain things in like just the world that are better for humans than others. And okay, like I get what you're saying. This is like a very like strong form of like skepticism. How do you know? Like prove it to me. But
I don't really find it skepticism. It's a fact. No, you're calling anybody who doesn't. What's called skepticism these days is anybody who has a view other than the mainstream view.
No, it's okay.
Sure, of course it is.
That's not the proper philosophical.
Well, it might not be the proper, but it's the way it's applied. If you don't think the way the majority thinks, then you're a skeptic.
Okay, let's reject that and like do the proper philosophical like form view of skepticism, which is like what I've been using because like I've studied skepticism in philosophy. Like, and what you're essentially saying is like an extreme, like a form of philosophical skepticism.
As far as I'm concerned, all I'm doing is bringing out things that to me make sense. Whether you want to call it what you want to call that is up to you. You could call it skepticism, you could call it foolishness, you could call it truth, you could call it one of a number of different things, but that doesn't change the fact of what it is that I'm actually doing. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at reality and I'm saying things don't match up.
Sure.
So fine, you call that skepticism. That's fine. But to me, that's another label that's very much along the lines of conspiracy theorist. Where now because the minute someone brings up conspiracy, it's already there's a preconceived notion that a person who believes in quote conspiracies is basically a nut job. And I'm fine with that because that's all that is a word. It's a label, and labels are meaningless. The fact is is that, you know, we know how water acts. If you look at things and you just accept them for what they are, if you accept them for what they are without labeling them, then you can come to your own conclusions without labeling it as such, as skepticism, as truth, or anything else. It's just, this is what I believe reality is. And, you know, again, for me, reality of someone missing 2 legs, blood needs to come out of their legs. We're filled with blood. We have a lot of blood in us, and I would expect pools of blood to be coming out, and there's not even a drop of blood.
But how does that mean the Earth is flat?
Well, what I've done is, guys, the problem is that me saying the Earth is flat is so freaking absurd to your average guy walking down the street, and this stuff is pretty much right there with it. There's the easiest, gentlest way to bring people to kind of start questioning their reality would be for me to ask everybody here, raise your hand if you trust your government 100%. Does anybody here trust their government 100%?
I don't think it's about trusting the government 100% as much as like accepting.
Well, I'm asking you to raise your hand if you trust your government 100%. Please, somebody. Nobody does. Good.
Like the current administration.
Right, but it's not. So my point is that good. It's great. Everybody here stood here and not one person wanted to raise their hand when I asked whether they trusted the government. That to me is is a little bit of hope for us, because it shows that people are able to still smell bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Now the problem though is that they got a little whiff of it, but they don't understand they're being played at a massive level. Like everything, the government itself, Democrats, Republicans, there is no difference. They are one party. It's them against the little guy, basically. The people in power do what they want, when they want, how they want to. And I have proof of that. I am now 47 years old. We have been at war since I graduated freaking high school.
Who's we?
The United States. The United States has been at war. We are in Afghanistan. We are in Iran. Do you know we drop over 4,000 bombs, drone strikes, supposedly, if this is true. I don't even know if it's true. So I could be wrong about that too. But according to what they're propagandizing is that we drop multiple strikes on country after country, India included, right?
How do you know India is a real country? How do you know that America is not the only country in the world?
Well, I mean, if obviously, how do I know that?
Yes, how do you know?
I would go from the idea that there are multiple people who I know who have visited those places, who come from those places.
What if they're lying to you?
It's very possible people are lying.
What if there's the only person in the world who's actually a real person and everyone else is just like a robot?
An NPC? You think they're NPCs?
I don't know.
Okay. So
well, I'll tell you. Listen, you can go all the way out. Listen, I'm fine with that. If you want to go all the way out to that this is a matrix and that the whole thing is electronic and it's all video game, that's fine. I can't argue it. What I would argue is that what I can see, touch, feel, hear, I take as my reality, as something that's real. And it might be a game to you, it might be a joke, I might be a joke. It's fine. I'm not here for people who are listen, 99 out of 100 people are going to laugh at me. Then one person talks to me and says, I had a guy earlier, he goes, I looked at your stuff, he goes, and I've been questioning, he goes, I question everything all the time. He goes, I have these conversations where there's a group of us, we hang out and this is all we talk about. So there's people out there who can see through the lies, man, and the lies are there.
But like, how do you know you're not wrong? Like,
I don't know 100%. But I do know that, like, when I see, all right, let me put it this way.
hang on, I have to go soon, but I just want to say, so like the way that I get what you're saying, and like it's like it actually, like, skepticism, like in the philosophical sense, is like a valid position to have. But like the way that like I deal with things is like I look at like the evidence that like I know, like you said, but also like look at the evidence that others like.
Of course, man.
And, like, and if there is enough evidence, in fact, overwhelming evidence to suggest that a certain view is right, like for example, the Earth is round, then okay. Can I be 100% sure? Like some philosophers say no, but like I accept it.
Can you accept that though? I mean, given you have to say that you're biased regarding the shape of the Earth.
Yeah, there's a philosophy.
But I could be wrong. So that'll be very difficult. That's a very difficult thing to overcome. And believe me, I do question myself all the time. I'm like, man, if I'm doing my own experiment, I'm going to do 2 miles of tubing. And it's called the carpenter's level, where you fill up the tubing with water. And over those distance of the 2 miles, I'm going to have 3 points that we're going to measure. We're going to have a surveyor do it. He's going to survey off every 600 feet a baseline, and we're going to AutoCAD it. So the point being is that I'm not just doing that like to prove to other people. I want to prove it in a scientific manner to myself. And the results, if the results came in and there was that bulge is there in the water and that middle point is 8 inches higher, then I don't have really any choice but to say, I think, you know, I'm off in my belief that the Earth is flat, when the water is clearly showing me that it's conforming to the ball that they say it is.
In 2 miles, you're not going to have 8 inches.
Sure you are. You got to look up all Earth math. It's 100% look it up. Please look it up. No, I mean, listen, I've been doing this for 2.5 years. How long have you been, have you studied into what the size of the Earth is and how they determine it?
The Earth, if you look at a short, like for example, you look from here to here, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be flat.
Well, what do you mean there to there? Is in 2 feet or is in... All right, have a good one, man.
As in, if you go...
There's a formula that the ball earthers will agree to it.
Ball earthers?
Yeah, people who believe they live on a spinning ball. The majority of the population, 99.9% of the people out there, right? The formula is 8 inches per mile squared. So that's going to give you a curve of an Earth 24,000 miles in circumference. This is agreed upon by like regular scientists, like not me, but the guys who know how to do the math, because I barely know how to do the math.
But why do you trust them if you don't trust scientists who tell the Earth is...
Well, it's not that I don't trust anybody. I'm going off of like people. Consensus agrees on both sides. People who are ball Earth and people who are not, and they've done the math and they figured out, yes, that will define a curve 24,000 miles in circumference. I mean, at a certain point, if I have to choose something to say, okay, I'm going to go with this, and then if someone offers me evidence that this is wrong, sure, I'll take a look. Maybe the formula is wrong, but for me right now, the vast majority of the people bringing the formula agree on both sides, and you would think that there'd be some conflict between them saying, hey, you're cheating or you're cheating, and it seems like they've come to agree upon it. So guys, like, I mean, I brought that bottle of water for a reason. You see that bottle? Imagine that bottle is 2 miles long, okay? It's 2 miles long. Imagine that it's 2 feet in circumference, right? 2 feet, 2 feet high, let's say, whatever, diameter, right? Okay, you fill it up halfway, so it's 1 foot filled over that court, and it's perfectly level. As a ball Earth believer, what you believe is that in the center of that 2 miles, at the 1 mile mark, in the center of it, that there is 8 inches of water higher, and that it would taper off slowly down. Yeah, that's what you have to believe. Bro, we know the nature of water. It always seeks and finds its level. Resting water, by the way, because I know that you put a water drop on a leaf, it's going to have it looks like a ball, right? And it curves. But I'm not talking a little drop of water. I'm talking a resting body of water. That's why if you look at this photo here, guys, not this photo, but this is your Great Lakes, and this is how they work. This is how it works. It's based off of elevation. So they just run down to the lowest point. Now, how the hell? Where is the lower point on a freaking ball? There's no such thing, man. There is no such thing. You're not being able to have a different.
That makes sense.
Are you saying you don't believe in divots in the?
No, what I'm saying is that we lived on a ball at age 5, 6 years old, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but did we truly learn it, or were we told it?
Have you been in a plane before?
Absolutely.
Have you looked outside the plane?
It looks flat.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. It's super flat.
Dude, there's a great video. You might want to watch it. You know Neil deGrasse Tyson is?
Yes.
Okay, so Neil deGrasse Tyson, he tweeted out this photo here. At one point, this is the top of Everest, right? Shit, sorry. He tweeted this out, and he said, here's your curve, all you dummies who believe in flat Earth, or something like that. He deleted that. He scrubbed that, right? Because it was very quickly countered with, here's another photo without a fisheye lens, and it shows you the top of the Everest, and you don't see any freaking curve. This is absolutely absurd. If the Earth was that freaking small, 26,000 feet, right? But why would Neil deGrasse Tyson even go there, right? Why would he make a tweet that lies at that level? Now, you brought up your phone, being in a plane, right? And seeing this. Well, you remember Felix Baumgartner, the guy who did the jump? There's a guy who did a Red Bull jump out of like 100,000 feet in the air. He's like, so what is that, 20 miles up in the sky? 20 miles. Your average plane is traveling, 30,000 feet, which is about 5 or 6 miles. So he's 4 times higher than your plane. He's pretty much in space, it looks like, from the view. In it, you see the curved Earth. And everyone's like, there you go, man, there's your freaking curve. Again, it was a fisheye lens. Neil deGrasse Tyson defended that for a little while, but then he switched his story. In the latest video, shows him talking. He shows you a basketball, and he goes, Felix Baumgartner was the equivalent of 10 millimeters above this basketball. He goes, of course it looks flat. He goes, because it looks flat. So now all of a sudden, he's changing his freaking story, right? Guys, why Why, when you type in flat Earth on YouTube and Google, do you get videos and stories debunking flat Earth? Fuck, man, dude. Like, seriously, guys, does it really take them to step in to let everybody know the Earth isn't flat? I mean, do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're demonetizing videos. I had my channel got shut down. I did a report the day of the Thousand Oaks shooting. It was a hoax. It was fake. I know it was. They always have drills. You could look this stuff up. The latest New Zealand shooting, there was a drill in the area with paramilitary forces the same day. Parkland shooting, there was a drill.
Do you think people who died there are not actually dead?
Nah, they're just, it's all a TV show. No one's dying, and then you go like, well, how, why, and how do they get away with it? I don't even know all of it. But the one thing I do know is that if you don't have anybody die in these things, you don't really have anybody you don't have any family members asking questions. So you can.
People do die.
I honestly, have you looked into these things at all or not?
Yes, one of my good friends was in the Parkland shooting, and a lot of his friends died, and they're dead. Like, I don't know how you can deny someone's death when there's bodies.
There's no, well, that's the thing though.
Well,
very frequently there are no bodies.
Body.
What's crazy is in so many of these, oh, did you know, let me put it this way. In the Sandy Hook shooting that took place when you guys were probably like 5 years old at that point, you were young probably. It was only 10 years ago or so, 7 or 8, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You can look on the tax records, and literally like almost every person in that town had their house paid off, their mortgage paid off, up to $1 million. And guess what day it took place? On Christmas Day, December 25th. What government organization is open and doing any work on December 25th, right?
It seems like an incredibly useless piece of evidence.
Well, no, but there's so much more. There were no bodies. If you look on the Social Security Index, there are no deaths in that township or in that state for that day that occurred like due to gunshot wounds or anything like that. There is
and their modus operandi is to pretend that they're rational and that what they're doing is just having a great.
Do you trust your government?
I have fallen into that many times and just lost hours in rage and time, and it goes nowhere because the big secret is these views don't arrive by evidence and reason, so they're not going to leave by evidence.
Well, I have evidence. If you want to explain, can I show you something?
Of his loneliness, his boredom, his need to feel important. It's not going to be removed by rational debate. So if
absolutely.
you guys have stuff to do with your afternoon, you should do that instead. God bless. Bye.
So that's cool, and that's again. I'll go back to the perfect. There's a perfect saying that I blame this for the way I lived my life until I was age 46. I beg you guys not to do it, and I don't think you are. And that is there's a principle that will keep a man in everlasting ignorance, and that principle is condemnation before investigation. Don't believe a word I fucking say. I'm not asking you to believe one word I say. I don't want you to believe a word I say. I beg you, though, to take an alternative look and look into the Holocaust and do the math. Go to the Holocaust Well, listen, when I hear you, man. I hear you 100%. Because when I
What do you believe in?
Oh, look, are the police coming to get me now? I got a ticket for filming on the boardwalk that I had to pay $288 for. Not too long ago. The court system is completely corrupt too, by the way, guys. But as far as what was I going to say? The Holocaust goes. Just check out the Holocaust.
Hello, sir. My name is Police Officer Ali. I'm a representative of the university. Someone filed a complaint against you for being on private property. So I'm going to have to ask for your identification.
I don't have any. Can I ask you a question?
Sure, you can.
Where is this a sidewalk here or no?
No, this is privately owned by the university. So that
is private too?
Yes.
This sidewalk is private?
So before you get into that debate with me, I think the township requires you to have a permit too. Do you have a permit on you?
I don't know of anything about requiring a permit when I'm just standing here holding a sign.
Okay, so the language is that you do have your First Amendment rights.
I'd like to speak to. No, I'd like to have your supervisor come in. I'd like to speak with him. Thank you.
You want to speak to him? Or?
Yeah, of course. I want to get the law, and I want to hear that. Okay. Absolutely. I want to find out where the private property is. I thought this is a public sidewalk. That's why I came here.
Okay, no, this is owned by the university. So.
The sidewalk is owned by the university? Are you sure about that?
I'm 100% sure.
And your name is?
My name is Patrolman Ali, and my badge number is 130.
Perfect, cool.